Hello and welcome back everybody to Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer battles. Today we're going to be playing a free-for-all match. So, it was a game between me playing as the Empire, some random dude playing Beastman, another random dude playing the Skaven, and finally another random dude playing the Wood Elves. So, we'll run through the army compositions in just a second, but this game was incredibly fun and maybe not close, but it was definitely a nail-biter by the end of it. So, we'll go through the Empire, Beastmen, Skaven, and finally the Wood Elf army compositions. Yes. Pause. So, my Empire army consisted of 4 Spearman units, 3 Hellstorm rocket batteries, and 1 Sunmaker rocket battery. Along with that, my other core of infantry is the Great Sword infantry, followed by a small unit of Sigmar Sun, a Luminef, a Light Wizard, 2 handgunners, 2 archers, and Marcus Wolfheart himself, followed by the Black Lions, the War Wagon Hellblaster Edition. Now we make our way over to the Beastmen. Our Beastmen allies have 4 Goreherd, 3 Ungor Raiders, quite nasty, Kazarak, the One-Eye himself, a slightly concerning Cygor, the Eye of Morsalib, an overkill of perhaps 3 units of Minotaurs, which would completely and utterly wreck me, a Doom Bull, another Cygor just for good measure, and 2 elite unit of Bestigors. Now we head over to this. Where the hell is Skaven? Oh, there they are. I have no idea what this formation is, honestly. I feel like this guy just kind of gave up, but he does have 4 clan rats with shields, another 4 with shields, 2 storm vermin, and he invested quite a lot in artillery, specifically the warp lightning cannons, and 2 rattling guns, 3 rattling guns, and then what I personally love, 1, 2, 3 doom wheels, 1 for his leader, 1 for a regiment of renown, and 1 regular. So now we come to my personal favourite out of all these armies, the Glade Riders. Not the Glade Riders, the Wood Elves! But that's a unit. So they have 1 Glade Rider, normal edition, another one with archers, a Way Stalker, a Dryad unit, a Deep Wood Scouts, and an Air Force which would make America jealous, with a bunch of Hawk Riders, a Forest Dragon, beautiful model, and then 1 Spell Singer, and then his Lord, a Glade Lord. And with his infantry, some Astari Spears, some War Dancers, another unit of War Dancers, and 2 Glade Guard units. Not bad at all. So, we're going to open up with quite a funny little thing where I was planning to go after the Wood Elves, honestly. No, I didn't know who was there, but I kind of decided to go after them. And those poor Glade Guard, Sisters of the Fawn, would be the first target of my, let's just say, barrage. Taking down the unit to half HP, but sadly not dropping a lot of models. And that's where I realised my mistake, and I went over here and started to get ready for the onslaught of all I could really say is Beastmen. I decided that we're not going to go and stay back and hide like a bunch of pansies, and we're going to go and fight them like men. So, I make the really bad decision of getting my guys up and allowing myself to be shot by a Cygor, which was, let's just say, extremely controversial. And also, since I went for a very, very stupid approach, I decided not to care about friendly fire, which ended up killing me in the ass. So, these Goreherd are not going to be lasting very long, especially since I do have a War Wagon in the back, helping lock down their HP, and they all go running. My handgunners do a valiant job at trying to stop down the Minotaurs, but sadly, I do not have much anti-large in this army. And I do apologise about the frame rate drop. Let's just say that's a lot of Hellstorm rocket batteries going into my flank. And once again, you see my stupidity of me firing into my own units. But overall, I did do a good job at slaughtering the first wave, even though I did end up doing more damage to myself. At this point, I realised my greatswords aren't going to cut it, so I end up wanting to start sending my units back. I do a very smart little thing and net of Amontok the rest of the handgunners in an attempt to try and save him, but sadly, I forget to move Woolheart, the guy who's important in this army, and he won't be able to get his full potential. However, my rocket batteries are still destroying the enemy. As my war wagons also do manage to get up and try and support the Sigmar Sun, who are doing a great job at keeping these besticles busy. The Minotaurs continue going up, and I send some piked spearmen in an attempt to just curb the tide for the meanwhile, just try and buy some guys some more, time. But sadly, let's just say that does not end up, and they take almost half damage immediately. My rocket batteries start firing into the remaining beastmen, just an attempt to try and break as many as possible before they do break my lines, which is going to be very, very shortly, because, to be completely honest, this army was not made for beastmen in mind, even though I brought Wolfheart himself, the Beastmaster. I do end up doing quite a lot of damage to these Minotaurs, and even coming up on top for the meanwhile, but now that he gets into my back, that's where it all starts going to hell. But overall, I did do a pretty decent job with my artillery, with the majority of it being used. At this point, I attempt to reset up my gun line, because I knew if I could keep these bastards out of combat, I could still win. But that's where he ends up noticing, and they don't even get to have a shot. Yep. But I do get these archers to reline up, and they will take out the rest of the unit. Alright. These spearmen are going to go into the Ungor Raiders. But, like the majority of my army, these Cygors really kill me. Because they have 136. And this one has 14, because he's mostly going for my artillery, which is a very good choice. And at this current point, I realize the battle is quite lost for me. So I start getting every unit which I can out of there. I try to get these archers to go hide in the forest. However, my opponent very smartly comes and takes him out with using his cavalry. That's pretty much the end of this army for me. I do somewhat get a pretty funny shot here, getting a net of Amontok from Wolfheart, where he makes his final stand. And Boof! Does a good amount of damage on the Gorbel, and then another special one comes in. Doesn't do as good, but still hurts the guy. Now, let's head over and see how the Skaven are going. They're going pretty bad. That's all I can really say. The Warp Lightnings were not used very effectively, as well as due to the superior shooting of the Glade Guard, they were a real pain for my opponent, for my opponent to take care of. It didn't help, especially since Ikit Claw was just focused down the hill with an entire army of archers. At this point, I realize I can't really go against these quote-unquote pretty relatively intact Beastman army, so I decide to keep my war wagons, which have done a pretty good job with 69 kills, going this way to try and knock down the rest of these Skaven and what do you call them? Skaven and what else? So, but sadly for Skaven, it is very, very, very clear who is winning, with my opponent not really utilizing everything correctly. With these normally very weak Hawk Riders being extremely instrumental, with him being able to break entire Skaven regiments. Now this is, however, where my war wagons start coming into play again, because at this current point, my opponent in the basement is going to start reorganizing his army in preparation for the final countdown. I managed to wipe out an entire unit of Glade Guard using my artillery, which was very smart because that made him slightly less mobile and lost the main, what would you call it? Main appeal of this unit, having fast mobile cavalry. However, this does gain the attention of something I really did not want, and that will be the archers in a slight moment. And I get a little bit of a 2-for-1 now, as the war wagon will be shooting into both Storm Vermin and Archer unit now, which is very good for me. And then, whoop-de-doo, wipes out, breaks the unit, I believe. Yes, it does. However, this is now when I decide I've gone too far and want to start pushing my guys out, but sadly, they will be caught by this really big air squadron. And this is the final charge of the Skaven, with the guy attempting to throw his last doom wheel in an attempt to do as much damage to the remaining Skaven as possible. Sorry, Beastmen as possible. Doing quite an admirable job of wiping out shaking the rest of the Gore Herd and breaking it. And he goes now into the best of Gore Herd, out into the Ungore Herd. What was that? Oh, the guy threw his own unit at him. This is where I realize I have done fucked up, and where I attempt to retreat the rest of my cavalry units towards the enemy. But sadly, they are a lot faster, and I'll probably never be able to outrun them. So what I decide at this point is to go towards the Beastmen. See if I can't use protection. I use a net of Amontok to slow down the Glade Guard in an attempt to get my Life Wizard a chance to get away. But at this point I realise it is fruitless, so I go down and get one last volley into these Hawk Riders, who ended up being a very big pest for me. Even again, I cannot run away. The Light Wizard attempting to dash by and get away, with him casting a spell on himself to let him go faster. But that will not be enough to get away from the Dragon or the Eagle, because they, no matter what, are very big units, and they are flying. My opponent attempts to try and get one last couple of volleys with his ammunition on the Cygor, running extremely low, getting a good shot wiping out one Hawk Rider, which will convince my opponent not to pursue. With me getting a couple more shots in from my volley gun, which manages to rally. But they are pursued by the Life Wizard. While my quote-unquote opponent is starting to reform his army in an attempt to do a counterattack and beat back the remaining Wood Elves. At this point it is a 1v1 with a small rogue army in the middle, just attempting to break off the last of the enemy. Thankfully, my Light Wizard does manage to rally, and just beforehand, this Hellblaster volley gun does manage to rally and starts slowly attempting to get away. And that's when I realized there is a Gorball coming towards me because he will be revealed and I will start shitting my pants. So, in about a couple minutes, me and my beastman opponent decide to call a truce to try and wipe out the remaining wood elves. Because he has enough... There it is. Well, it's quite terrifying to see a Gorball going towards my only unit, with me actually using the last of my magic to cast a spell of Anantok. I start making my way over here to attempt to help my former opponent, and we will fast forward it because it was not a very organized attack. He comes in strong. My artillery behind them is slowly coming up. I try and set up on the wheel, and that's when my opponent finally notices that it's better to just let me fight it out with him. And there we go. Some more attacks from my artillery. Me trying to waste some more ammo. Go over to the next unit of Glade Riders. I managed to break a couple of them and do a little bit more damage onto them. That's when my opponent realizes and sends a fucking dragon after him. And the rest of the goon squad. I attempt to get my light wizard away, but I just decide it's kind of worthless and just keep him in combat. I do get one last charge to try and help my former ally by trying to take out some of his cavalry, because beastmen do not have a lot of morale, and if I can take out a couple of their units, which could potentially flank them, it would be very useful. And my opponent does, I think, kind of loses micromanagement of his army and forgets about it. Oh, and I missed it! The Gorball manages to kill the dragon. But he doesn't send in his Bestigor, which could have won him the battle, because he does have his leader and a Cygor. Perhaps not the most powerful unit in the game, but still very, very strong. Alright. And then for about a good solid 3 minutes, he kind of forgets about the rest of his army and then slowly starts moving him up, with this guy making his debut all across the field, his Gorball coming in, and since he's actually run out of ammo, he can't just sit back and shoot. He does start breaking the Cygor and it does go broken, but he can't pursue it and chase it off the field due to the fact there is a Gorball in the combat. But the Gorball does go down. The remaining Ungor archers valiantly try to soften up the remaining part of the army. But however, they are a bit too close, too far away from their support and go down to the Glade Riders. And the Glade Riders now go after the remaining Bestigors. But due to the fact of their mobility, he is able to easily break them until the last monster arrives, the Cygor. Perhaps if he had a, let's say, a giant, he could have brought it back because it's more combat-oriented nature, but due to the fact it's just one big beast, it was unable to win the day. But it does give him enough time to reorganize his Bestigors and bring back some of his Ungor archers. However, they will probably just die to a charge. The last march, the Ungor archers attempt to try and soften up the Hawk Riders, and the rest go in. He does do a very smart thing of knocking the Ungor Raiders out of the fight so they can't actually help the battle, and then comes back in and breaks the Beastman. Let's just put it back in play, and we'll enjoy the cinematic nature of this absolute clusterfuck. Come on, you can do it. I'm really sad the Cygor does not have his own animation. It would be truly wonderful. And And I do think at this point my opponents realize it is very, very unlikely he will be able to kill the Cygor. So what he attempts to do is take out the remainder of the army and try and cause a break in the unit's morale and wipe them out that way. While the Cygor does get... Ooh, that was a pretty cool animation, sorry. While he keeps the Cygor occupied with a Waste Stalker and a remaining Blade Guard. He successfully manages to shatter the last unit of Bestigors, and now it becomes a waiting game of how long before the big guy dies. He attempts to cycle charge, which is very smart of him because honestly he won't be able to kill him in a straight out charge and will need the charge bonus. With three heroes, sorry, I think he will be able to take him down. With the Cygor wavering and being broken. Now let's have a look at how the armies went. My army was the second worst, only 624 kills. The Skaven, I don't know what the guy was honestly doing. It's not a very good army composition, even worse in my opinion. The Beastman player, however, had a very good mix, having very cheap, cost-effective infantry, some elite, some shooty, and even some cavalry with two big Minotaur units with some very good artillery, with Khazrak the One Eye and a Doom Bull to lower it down, with the Wood Elf player having a Glade Lord, a Waste Stalker, and a Spell Singer. Don't know why he had Dryads in there. I wouldn't particularly put him in this army, but however, the Hawk Riders pay for themselves being very effective, along with the Dragon. But thank you very much, guys. We have come to the end of the video. I hope each and every one of you enjoy. Leave a like and subscribe to watch this channel grow.